Meghan Markle's new Hollywood disaster.
And you're able to show up in the space really organically and authentically.
Meghan Markle's back in the news. Our favorite.
Show up in the space organically and authentically. It's the Hoda lexicon.
Meghan Markle is at it again. She can't help herself.
The wicked bitch of Montecito strikes again.
Netflix is not only done with them, but Hollywood is done with them.
Single tear.
Hollywood said no to Meghan. Meghan could never enter Hollywood.
Because I think everything she's thrown at the wall has failed to stick.
Hollywood A-listers are distancing themselves from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Hollywood has soured on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
And the bad news continues this time.
So it sounds like that there's a lot of Hollywood elites who are obviously a very tight-knit group of people who do not want to let in Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in their circles.
When the stakes are this high, doesn't it make more sense to hear our story from us?
Kinsey, tell me about these reports that major Hollywood power brokers are no longer answering Meghan Markle's phone calls.
So there is no return to Hollywood. Hollywood never wanted her before. They're certainly not going to want her now. She's definitely over the hill by Hollywood standards by, quite a large mile now.
The BS from Meghan just never seems to stop.
I know.
Yes.
Meghan Markle is truly one of the most dangerous public figures on the world stage at the moment. She needs to be stopped.
Losers, enjoy Majesty.
I can't even. These two, Meghan and Harry, are the worst.
Imagine leaving the most famous monarchy on earth, giving up a crown, a palace, and centuries of history, and trading it all in for Hollywood. And Hollywood, a place that will work with literally anyone as long as the check clears, got up close, saw the true colors, and decided the table wasn't big enough. This is not a tale of simple career transition. It is the definitive case study in cultural and professional liquidation. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped back from their roles as senior working royals in 2020, the narrative sold to the public was one of liberation, progressive ambition, and a desire to achieve financial independence through high-minded digital storytelling. Backed by the historical weight of the British royal family and propelled by an unprecedented wave of global curiosity, the Sussexes entered the entertainment industry not as applicants, but as emperors. They were handed sovereign-level contracts by Netflix and Spotify, managed by elite power brokers, and insulated by a multi-million-dollar public relations apparatus. The world was told that they would revolutionize content creation by showing up in the space organically and authentically. Yet, just a few years later, the cultural landscape has fundamentally soured. The grand American experiment of the Duchess of Sussex has not merely stalled. It has devolved into a series of public rejections, canceled contracts, and institutional isolation so severe that media analysts now describe it as a permanent professional exile. What was meant to be a Hollywood reign has transformed into what commentators bitterly dub Meghan's new Hollywood disaster. The very industry that thrives on celebrity capital has systematically dismantled her brand, closing its iron gates against the woman who once believed she could outshine the House of Windsor. From the boardrooms of Silicon Valley streaming giants to the ultra-exclusive guest lists of Hollywood's A-list elite, the verdict is unanimous, clear, and devastating. Netflix is not only done with them, but Hollywood is done with them. To understand the scale of this reputational bankruptcy, one must look beyond the glossy veneers of targeted press releases and examine the tangible, cascading failures that have defined her American tenure. This is an autopsy of a brand that mistook temporary curiosity for permanent admiration. It is the raw, unvarnished chronicling of 13 distinct instances where Meghan Markle went looking for her definitive Hollywood moment, only for the industry to look back, change the locks, disconnect the phone, and move to a different address. This specialized deep dive examines how an international figure went from the steps of St. George's Chapel to becoming, by several definitive metrics, one of the most polarizing and systematically rejected public figures in modern entertainment history. The core flaw in the Sussex corporate strategy was the miscalculation of their own primary asset. Royal status is inherently built on mystique, scarcity, and institutional dignity. Hollywood status conversely, demands performance, consistency, and a transactional yield on investment. When Meghan and Harry traded the structured duties of the monarchy for the commercial pressures of showbiz, they immediately exposed themselves to the ruthless metrics of American capitalism. In Hollywood, you are only as valuable as your last hit, and as industry insiders frequently note, everything she's thrown at the wall has failed to stick. During the initial phase of their relocation to their $16 million Montecito mansion, the couple relied heavily on an exhaustion-based narrative strategy. Their commercial viability was entirely dependent on their willingness to litigate their grievances against the royal family on a global stage. This strategy reached its absolute zenith with the 2021 Oprah Winfrey interview and the subsequent 2022 Netflix documentary series. However, this approach carried an inevitable shelf life. Once the secrets were told, the grievances aired, and the private family conversations commodified, the couple was left with an empty, creative reservoir. They had plenty of complaints, but very little content. As a result, a profound psychological shift occurred across the entertainment sector. The industry's initial fascination rapidly gave way to an acute sense of saturation and exhaustion. Major Hollywood power brokers, elite talent agencies, and publicists began to recognize that associating with the Sussex brand brought immense, toxic volatility with almost zero commercial upside. A prominent publicist, when pitching a high-profile celebrity client to a major media outlet, summarized the consensus of the industry's elite when asked if their client would be involved in a project alongside the couple. "We don't want to touch anything Harry and Meghan related. It's too negative. It's too dirty." This cultural freeze was not passive. It manifested as an active, calculated distancing by the industry's true power players. The very inner circles that Meghan Markle spent years attempting to infiltrate began to perceive her not as a high-value asset, but as a reputational liability. Hollywood is fundamentally a tight-knit community built on mutual self-preservation and discretionary privilege. When a public figure demonstrates a consistent willingness to violate the privacy of their own family for financial gain, the elite circles of Los Angeles draw an immediate defensive line. They recognize that if a duchess will sell out a king, she will certainly sell out a studio executive, a pop star, or a fashion mogul. Consequently, the phone calls that once commanded instant answers started going straight to voicemail. As media analysts have observed, major Hollywood power brokers are no longer answering Meghan Markle's phone calls, signaling the definitive end of her access to the rooms where real power resides. The first crack in the carefully manufactured facade of the Duchess's public brand did not come from a corporate boardroom or a formal studio press release. It came from a casual, devastatingly precise anecdote shared on live American television by international star Rebel Wilson. For years, Meghan Markle's entire global marketing identity has been aggressively constructed around the specific concepts of curated warmth, conscious empathy, grassroots female empowerment, and absolute authenticity. Her public appearances are meticulously engineered to project the image of a deeply accessible, naturally compassionate humanitarian, a woman whose personal essence is defined by organic connection and emotional intelligence. However, the reality of her interpersonal brand was exposed when Rebel Wilson sat down with host Andy Cohen on live television and recounted an unplanned, organic encounter that occurred in the ultra-exclusive coastal enclave of Santa Barbara. Wilson and her mother, a normal Australian woman, had traveled up to the region where they happened to cross paths with a self-exiled royal couple through a mutual acquaintance in the Polo community. When reviewing the encounter on a global broadcast, Wilson casually delivered a dual assessment that instantly dismantled the Sussex's joint public relations narrative. Regarding Prince Harry, Wilson was effusive, describing him in terms that validated his traditional, unstudied royal training. Harry was an absolute sweetheart. Warm, kind, genuinely lovely. Could not have been nicer. He passed the natural litmus test of human interaction with flying colors. Yet, the moment the conversation shifted to the Duchess, the narrative encountered a stark, icy wall. Wilson, speaking with the unvarnished candor characteristic of her public persona, dropped a casual remark that immediately went viral. Meghan was not as cool, wasn't as naturally warm. To fully appreciate the scale of this rejection, one must contextualize what the Real Housewives franchise actually is. This is a media ecosystem that has built a multi-decade empire on televised chaos, screaming matches, flip tables, public divorces, and intense personal drama. It is an environment that regularly tolerates extreme behavioral volatility and gives platforms to highly controversial figures. Yet, when confronted with the prospect of incorporating Meghan Markle, the stars looked at the sheer baggage, the calculation, and the toxic public relations warfare that follows her, and drew a definitive line. They made it clear that even within a genre dedicated to drama, they maintained clear professional standards, and Meghan Markle fell squarely beneath them. When pushed to name a true celebrity housewife they would welcome with open arms, the cast instantly shifted their focus to figures who command authentic respect and project genuine, uncalculated warmth. They enthusiastically put forward names like Jennifer Aniston, praising her as a true girl's girl. More devastatingly, when discussing the concept of true dignity within a high-profile domestic sphere, the conversation immediately veered back across the Atlantic. The reality stars bypassed the Duchess of Sussex entirely and expressed an intense, uniform admiration for Catherine, the Princess of Wales. They noted with deep respect that the princess was wonderful and tough as nails, proving that even within the heart of American pop culture, the authentic dignity of the working British monarchy completely eclipses the manufactured, high-conflict lifestyle brand of Montecito. The culminating proof that Meghan Markle's Hollywood standing had suffered a permanent collapse arrived in the form of empirical, data-driven market research. For years, the Sussex camp had attempted to frame the massive public backlash against them as a localized, highly specific phenomenon driven exclusively by the British tabloid press and an insular, outdated UK demographic. They maintained the corporate illusion that inside the United States and across the wider global entertainment marketplace, the Duchess remained a deeply beloved, highly inspirational figure of progressive empowerment. That illusion was shattered when a comprehensive, scientifically audited global marketing index published its definitive list of the most disliked celebrities on the planet. This index was not an internet poll or a biased media survey. It was a cold, empirical analysis of global consumer sentiment, tracking public aversion, brand toxicity, and negative engagement metrics across multiple continents. When the final data was aggregated, the results were historic. The list featured some of the most controversial, compromised, and legally embattled individuals in modern public life. Figures whose names are permanently attached to major criminal proceedings, federal investigations, and profound moral scandals. Yet, sitting entirely isolated at the absolute peak of this global index, occupying the undisputed #1 spot, was Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. The scale of this reputational catastrophe cannot be overstated. To claim the title of the most disliked celebrity on earth requires a sustained, multi-year performance of profound public alienation. Meghan did not merely edge out her competition. She achieved a statistical margin that shocked industry analysts. Most notably, she managed to climb right over Sean Diddy Combs, an individual whose legal and personal situation was so catastrophic that it was actively generating daily federal breaking news alerts and severe criminal indictments. The global public looked at an individual facing severe federal charges, and then looked at Meghan Markle, a woman attempting to launch a lifestyle brand centered around high-priced organic jam, curated cooking content, and manufactured lifestyle videos, and collectively decided that the Duchess of Sussex was more exhausting, more unlikable, and more toxic to the public consciousness. This metric revealed a fundamental truth that Hollywood studio executives understood immediately. Meghan Markle's brand had achieved a state of permanent negative equity. In the modern entertainment industry, a celebrity can survive being controversial, and they can certainly survive being polarizing. What they cannot survive is a uniform, global public consensus of exhaustion. The data proved that her systematic campaign of public grievance, her perceived lack of professional delivery, and her constant manipulation of media narratives had alienated the global consumer base to a degree that was completely irreversible. She had set out to conquer the world as a progressive cultural icon, but through her own strategic miscalculations, she had achieved something entirely different, a historic cross-continental consensus of deep public aversion. as the global consumer data solidified Meghan Markle's position as a highly polarizing figure. The structural foundations of her newly proposed lifestyle empire began to experience acute operational strain. The primary vehicle for her planned commercial redemption was a highly publicized, lifestyle-centric cooking show produced for Netflix. The project was intended to serve as the aesthetic foundation for her digital retail venture, a brand designed to monetize curated domesticity, organic home goods, and high-end culinary products. However, prior to its broadcast, the production was facing severe internal stagnation, with media insiders describing the project as being on life support flatlining. Faced with dismal early tracking metrics and a profound lack of organic consumer anticipation, the strategic brain trust in Montecito engineered a rescue plan rooted entirely in transactional celebrity capital. They would leverage the ultimate American cultural asset. They initiated an aggressive, formal outreach to music legend, national treasure, and universally beloved cultural icon, Dolly Parton. The strategic calculation was transparent. Parton possesses an unparalleled cross-generational market reverence that transcends political, social, and demographic divisions across the Western world. By securing a high-profile cameo, a collaborative cooking segment, or a formal endorsement from Parton, the Sussex brand hoped to instantly borrow her unassailable cultural legitimacy, insulating Meghan's widely criticized public persona within a protective layer of pure Americana warmth. The formal invitation was dispatched, offering Parton a central, highly curated appearance on the show. Yet Parton, whose multi-decade career has been defined by an extraordinary capacity to read the cultural room with absolute precision, analyzed the proposition and delivered an immediate, unyielding refusal. She declined because of brand and reputation damage she could foresee by associating herself with Meghan. The dissolution of Meghan Markle's institutional standing was not confined to Hollywood talent agencies and pop culture icons. It was simultaneously mirrored by a total, icy communication freeze from the British royal family. This structural isolation reached its absolute public zenith on the occasion of her 42nd birthday. Within the specialized matrix of the Sussex media apparatus, a birthday is never approached as a private, domestic milestone. Under the guidance of their public relations strategists, a birthday functions as a highly calculated media production, a strategic asset engineered to force global media platforms to stop, redirect their focus toward Montecito, and validate her enduring international status. Sitting within her $16 million Montecito mansion, the Duchess fully anticipated a highly public, coordinated display of institutional recognition from the United Kingdom. Her office remained on high alert, waiting for a formal message, a digital tribute, or a symbolic smoke signal from Buckingham Palace to signal to the global entertainment industry that she still possessed an active, influential pipeline to the world's most famous monarchy. While the public-facing architecture of Meghan Markle's brand continued to suffer external defeats, the internal corporate infrastructure of her office was undergoing a severe structural collapse. For a public figure attempting to launch a multi-million-dollar global lifestyle venture, the ultimate metric of operational stability is the capacity to retain high-level, elite, professional staff. Yet, behind the gates of the Montecito estate, the corporate office of Archwell and the Sussex personal brand experienced an employee turnover rate so rapid that media analysts characterized it as a systemic operational emergency. High-level corporate executives, seasoned public relations strategists, and veteran advisors were arriving at the office, taking one good look at what they have walked into, and leaving like the building is on fire. The true severity of this internal crisis was exposed when a high-profile international tour of Colombia was compromised by the sudden, dramatic resignation of their newly appointed chief of staff, Josh Kettler. Kettler was not a standard assistant. He was an elite corporate operator hired specifically to guide Prince Harry and Meghan Markle through their international public appearances and stabilize their chaotic media pipeline. He lasted exactly 3 months in the role before abruptly walking away, choosing to leave the couple completely stranded right as they prepared to begin their public tour. Kettler's rapid exit was merely the latest chapter in a long history of structural abandonment. Multiple former employees have stepped forward, bypassing strict non-disclosure agreements to describe the internal working environment under the Duchess as uniquely toxic and highly unstable. The internal culture was so intensely combative that former palace aides and American corporate staffers jokingly formed a mutual support network known as the Sussex Survivors Club. These were not disgruntled entry-level workers seeking temporary media attention. They were seasoned, highly disciplined professionals who had spent decades managing the intense pressures of corporate firms and royal households. They confirmed that working with Meghan Markle required individuals to engage in an environment of constant logistical friction, intense personal meltdowns, and impossible operational demands that left numerous staffers needing professional help to recover from the experience. For a brand aggressively attempting to sell the global consumer a vision of peace, mindfulness, and curated happiness, the reality that her own workforce required therapeutic intervention to survive her leadership destroyed her remaining corporate credibility. The corporate rot within her internal office was matched by a profound lack of professional validation from the elite institutions of American television. In late 2022, the Sussexes released their highly anticipated multi-part Netflix docuseries, Harry and Meghan. The project achieved massive, record-breaking initial streaming numbers, capturing global attention as audiences tuned in with intense curiosity. However, within the high-stakes marketplace of Hollywood, studio executives and industry veterans understand a fundamental artistic distinction. There is a vast, unbridgeable chasm between massive viewership driven by temporary curiosity and authentic professional admiration. Audiences were watching the docuseries not because it was a masterpiece of nonfiction filmmaking, but the same way people slowed down to look at a car crash. Meghan Markle, completely mistaking high streaming numbers for genuine artistic prestige, fully anticipated that the production would sweep the major award categories. Her public relations team launched an aggressive campaign to position the docuseries for a prestigious primetime Emmy nomination. She sat back within her estate, fully expecting the Television Academy to validate her creative shift from cable actress to high-minded documentary producer. When the formal nominations were announced, the Television Academy delivered a definitive, brutal snub. The docuseries was entirely thrown in the bin like last week's leftovers. It received 0 nominations, was completely omitted from the shortlists, and was totally ignored by the voting body. The industry sent a clear message to the streaming giant. A high-price series consisting of unverified personal claims, edited private messages, and continuous complaints against a foreign monarchy did not qualify as prestige television. What followed this public snub shifted the episode into the realm of absolute industry ridicule. Rather than accepting the artistic verdict of the voting body, highly verified Hollywood reports revealed that Meghan Markle had actively applied to be a judge on the Emmys. Having just been completely rejected by the Academy's voting members due to the low quality of her own work, she possessed the extraordinary confidence to demand a seat on the executive panels tasked with judging and grading the work of the industry's true elite. Hollywood insiders openly mocked the application, noting that her strategic delusion was the equivalent of failing your driving test and immediately applying for a job as a driving instructor. The Academy quietly shelved her application, leaving her completely locked out of the prestigious inner circles she sought to command. The definitive proof that the Duchess of Sussex had lost all standing within the landscape of American celebrity culture arrived via an unprecedented public intervention by the undisputed architects of modern reality television and digital media manipulation, the Kardashian-Jenner family. The episode began when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle secured attendance at the high-profile, ultra-exclusive Kris Jenner 70th birthday bash. The event was a gathering of the absolute peak of American entertainment, fashion, and billionaire capital. Recognizing the massive visibility of the gathering, the Sussexes positioned themselves front and center, smiling intensely alongside the family matriarch and her daughters, fully believing that this high society integration would signal to the world that they were finally embedded within Hollywood's ultimate elite inner circle. Following their established corporate protocol, the Kardashians immediately uploaded the high-resolution images of the event to their massive social media platforms. The photos featured Meghan Markle and a visibly compromised Prince Harry standing alongside Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner. However, Within a shockingly brief window of time, the images disappeared from Kris and Kim's accounts without a single word of public explanation. The sudden, total deletion of high-profile celebrity content sent the international media into an absolute frenzy of strategic speculation. The true, humiliating mechanics of this digital purge were later confirmed by Kim Kardashian herself on a major broadcast. The reality television mogul revealed that the Sussex camp had initiated a frantic, high-pressure communication campaign, literally begging them to delete the photos. The reason for this panic was a profound public relations conflict. The party had taken place on Remembrance Day, the most sacred and solemn day of the year dedicated to honoring fallen military veterans across the Commonwealth. Prince Harry, a decorated military veteran who had served 2 active tours of duty in Afghanistan, had spent this sacred day of national mourning partying at a high society reality star's birthday bash. Faced with the immediate threat of global public outrage and severe brand damage, the couple did not issue an adult apology or reflect on their professional actions. Instead, they placed a desperate, panic phone call to a reality television family, begging them to clean up their public mess and hide the evidence from the global press. The historical irony of this interaction was absolute. The House of Windsor had spent centuries maintaining an unassailable standard of institutional dignity, traditionally looking down upon the transactional world of American reality television. Yet, on the most sacred day of the military calendar, the roles were completely reversed. It was the Kardashians who had to save Harry from himself. Kim and Kris executed the deletion not out of innocent administrative courtesy, but as an act of pure corporate brand management and spin doctoring, proving that they held absolute power over the narrative and survival of the exiled royal couple. The structural journey of Meghan Markle from the historic steps of Windsor Castle to the complete professional isolation of her Montecito estate stands as the definitive modern case study in international brand liquidation. When she chose to walk away from the historic duties of the British sovereign, she operating under the profound strategic illusion that her global visibility was an inherent personal asset that could easily eclipse the ancient institution of the monarchy. She arrived in the United States fully expecting to establish a permanent corporate kingdom in Hollywood, convinced that the American entertainment industry would indefinitely finance her lifestyle based purely on her capacity to project a highly managed image of organic empathy and progressive empowerment. Instead, the reality of her 5-year American tenure has delivered a brutal, systemic lesson in the unforgiving economics of modern celebrity capitalism. Hollywood is fundamentally a hyper-transactional marketplace that demands consistent performance, commercial profitability, and absolute professional compliance. You cannot build a sustainable media empire when everything you throw at the wall fails to stick. By choosing to continuously monetize her personal grievances, treat her high-level corporate staff with intense operational friction, and alienate the very institutions that granted her international relevance, she transformed her brand from a high-value cultural monopoly into a highly toxic operational liability. The 13 distinct rejections compiled across this comprehensive investigation demonstrate that the iron gates of Hollywood have been permanently closed against the Duchess of Sussex. From elite talent agencies like WME determining that she is more exhausting than she is profitable, to global streaming giants like Spotify publicly branding her a lazy grifter, to iconic national treasures like Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift actively avoiding her association to protect their own brand equity. The verdict is absolute and final. Meghan Markle traded a historic, unassailable royal crown for the transactional promise of a Hollywood crown, only for the entertainment industry to look back, analyze her true colors, change the locks on the doors, and leave her entirely stranded in the cold of her own making. The global saga is structurally finished. The myth of the Montecito Empire has collapsed into permanent cultural exile.